The Chicago Cubs get back on track by avoiding being swept by the Minnesota Twins. The Chicago White Sox are holding the celebration of the 2005 World Series championship team minus one key ingredient. In basketball, Cooper Flag and Bronny James Jr. went head to head in Las Vegas. Do you care? Do you care? Do you care? And we have returning guests of two of your favorites and two of our favorites as well, as we do something we haven't done before live on air. We'll give you the details of that and a whole lot more as the Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Friday Funk edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow your Shieldly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at Ward Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Ward Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up of the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'll forgive LaKeena for powers to give you Dumbos to be able to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live gang. That's LIVE, Live Entertainment Gang. That's checking us out right now on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages at 12:21 p.m. Central Standard Time. But let's never forget, much love to the replay gang that's checking us out on the replay, also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. And don't you ever forget our motto, whether we talk sports, music, or entertainment, minus the politics. We will always provide.
And we invite you some of the best here on Second City Sports. Of course, we got a couple of our faves, coming on. We got Julie Swieca Gannon, of course, from formerly of The Score. She'll be on the entire second hour to talk White Sox, Bears, and more. And also another one of our faves at the top of the hour, our girl Christine Mack for KXRB will join us as well. There was a list that was posted by John Greenberg from The Athletic, talking about the Chicago sports media landscape. We'll talk about that, but I also want to talk about other like sports media news because the NBA on Prime, they announced their coverage, their team, their broadcast team. So we'll talk about that as well, and other sports media news and such. And excuse me, and of course, the MLB gets ready these last couple of games for the All-Star break. Which is weird because we're like 90 games in, but again, I digress. The Cubs will try to get back on track as they face the Yankees, who looks like they're back on track. As the White Sox will honor the 05 World Series champs, and also, of course, Mark Beuhrle. And with a short schedule today, we'll talk about that later on as they face the Guardians at G-Rate. But let's talk about those Cubs for a second. Like I said, they were able to salvage a game against Minnesota. You got the Brewers; they're only 2 games back, a little too close for my liking. There was a little bit of a power outage during those first couple of games against Minnesota. You probably should have won that Tuesday game. I mean, that Wednesday game, I should say, against Minnesota. But they did were able to win it, 8-1. Of course, Pico Armstrong, he hit the 25 home run, 25 steal mark, the first MLB player to do that. So, Sid, what do you think about this weekend against the Cubs? Where you wonder what's going to happen against the Yankees?
I got one word for you that described the Cubs' victory yesterday in more ways than one. Revenge. One, it was a revenge of losing the previous 2 games to the Minnesota Twins, where their offense went a wall down the wrong direction. But it went correct if you're a Cubs fan in the right direction yesterday, pounding out 8 runs. Number two, revenge. You mentioned Pete Armstrong struggled in this series. People are talking about him throwing his bat down every time he strikes out. I don't care. As long as he hits it most of the time, he plays great defense. You can do wherever you want to an extent. Seiya Suzuki, all-star snub, 3 for 5 yesterday. If that's not revenge for him not being selected to the all-star team, I don't know where is. Player number three, Michael Busch, 1 for 5 yesterday, including 2 RBI. I know you can make an argument for him being an all-star snub as well, but if his performance yesterday didn't do the target and why he should be on the team, I don't know what does. So the Cubs, they finally woke up. They took advantage of bad Minnesota Twins starting pitching, and they got the W. Colin Ray. He didn't have to be great, but he had five strikeouts with 2 walks in 7 innings pitched. We have good, as we said before throughout the season, we have offense like the Cubs have. When you're scoring runs like that, it eases the pressure just a little bit off your starting pitching. Now, the only trend that I didn't like in this series, outside of the offense not showing up for the first 2 games, your bullpen got exposed, especially the first game where you thought you could have got back in it, but everything imploded on them in the 8th inning on that game on Tuesday.
Yeah, that was a that was a bad outing for that bullpen, and it reiterates the fact that the Cubs do need like an extra bullpen arm, in addition to an extra starting pitcher. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I digress with that. But I think I think hopefully Jed Hoyer and Connor Hawkins are on the case, so hopefully that's what they'll try to do that within the next couple weeks before the end of the month. So again, we'll see what in that entails, but that series against Minnesota was a little bit where it did expose kind of the worries that some of us have had. I mean, sometimes the offense kind of goes by the wayside sometimes. So that's what happens in the long season. They got their they didn't have they didn't have a lot of offense that first game. Now you probably could have said they could have won that second game, but it's kind of crazy how that kind of entailed. But look, that third game yesterday, that kind of shows that, okay, you know what, it's better than getting swept. Okay, you know what, this is what happens when you have a good offense, and this is sort of how it kind of entails. So with the Cubs being 2 games up on the Brewers, and now they got to face a Yankee squad that looks like they're starting to get back on track. We'll talk about them after the break and what happened against Seattle. Now, this will be interesting because you're facing a squad where Chris Flexen and Carlos Rodon, who got named to the All-Star team for the AL. He just got the word there about an hour ago, so he's going to be extra motivated tonight. Then you got Matthew Boyd against Max Fried. That should be an interesting matchup there. Fried is definitely making a case for AL Cy Young. Well, there's this guy in Detroit that may have something to say about that, who's going for back-to-back, but that's digress there. Of course, Sunday's match, I should say, you got Shota, against Will Warren. So if you're the Cubs, if you can get one of these games, get a little bit of breathing room in that Central, great. If you can win 2, hey, that'd be even better. The sweep might be a bit, might be a lot to ask for. But if you just win the series against the Yankees in the Bronx, maybe you can feel a little bit better going to the All-Star break. We'll see, but I think it's setting up pretty well for the Cubs to kind of at the very least win one, if not, take the series against the Yankees.
Yeah, like you said, the pitching matchups are in favor for the Cubs because we'll talk about it again after this break. That the Yankees they're in need for some starting pitching as long as a few other teams that are in contention as well. Pay attention to the Shota and Manika start on Sunday because his first start since his return against St. Louis, it was stellar. His last couple of starts. Not so dominant, but he could use a little bit more of the strikeouts. But hopefully, Shota is starting to learn that it's great striking out people all the time. Gets people riled up and gets your pads your stats and things along that line. But you don't always have to strike people out as long as you can. I'm not gonna say become a ground ball pitcher, but as long as you make the key pitches and just get the outs and it saves your arm a little bit. I think that's going to be key for Shota going down the stretch here. Obviously, he has to stay healthy, but we love the strikeouts. It gets the fans going, gets your teammates going. But sometimes you just have to make the right pitch, and I want to see him do that against this still this very dangerous Yankees line because Aaron Judge is having the best year of his career thus far. Cody Bellinger is coming on late, both on the field with his glove, in at the plate with his bat. And let's not forget Giancarlo Stanton as well. So those are three tough guys that he has to face on Sunday. We'll see how his approach is to those three hitters.
Don't forget Chad Chisholm, who was just added to the home run derby. So
Mm-hmm.
he's been hitting the ball very well too for the Yankees. So yeah, I would be surprised. I would say take the over on all three of these series. It's probably the series of the weekend, if you will. So I'll be interested to see what happens in the Cubs Yankees series. As the second seed sports on Sports Switch, got LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Go switch gears and talk some White Sox. Now, of course, we all know the White Sox are gearing up for a few things honoring that 2005 World Series squad. And, of course, also Mark Beuhrle Day. He's going to have a statue
Yay!
over at G-Rape during. Well, okay, let me set this up. Okay, they took two. They actually broke the Blue Jays 10-game winning streak. Adrian Hauser, I think you should trade him now, Chris Guest. But again, I digress there.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, he struck out like Vat Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. So so I think you better try to strike while the others aren't hot with him. Maybe his forward team, who knows? We'll talk about them after the break, the Mets. But it was supposed to be a starter against the Guardians, but it got rained out. It's gonna be a day-night doubleheader. The first game starts in a couple of hours. So, Sid, I mean, it's going to be a lot of emotions there, of course, it being bittersweet, of course, Bobby Chase's passing that happened late last weekend. And other than him, the only person that's not going to be there from that 05 squad is Aaron Rowan, of course, who had other commitments. John Rooney was a big part of that, the TV, broadcaster for that 05 squad. He'll be there. He's with the Cardinals out, but he did get the weekend off, so will be there this weekend. So, Sid, okay, starting with the Sox on the field, what do you think about that series against Toronto and what they might do against the Guardians?
As we said on our show on Monday, if you could take one game from the Toronto Blue Jays, who have been the hottest team in baseball, there'll be something to hang your hat on going to the series against Cleveland, who had their struggles within themselves, even though they swept the Houston Astros earlier this week. But Cleveland, up to that point, going into this week's action, they have been struggling, especially their bullpen. But Sean Burke, in that game on Monday, he digressed, especially in those middle innings where Toronto took advantage of him. And, of course, during Wednesday's series finale, Adrian Hauser, as you mentioned, pitched tremendous. It was some shoddy defense by the White Sox, and particularly Miguel Vargas with that you cannot catch an easy pop fly ball at the pitcher's mouth. That was terrible, inexcusable. But the White Sox made up for it with a couple of defensive gems in that game to keep that game close and to take the series finale. Heading to the Cleveland series, LaKeena, I know you'll give the rest of the pitching matchups, but Venable, I love you. I do. I do. But why are you starting Shane Smith at the 2:00 game? He was supposed to start tonight. Why? Why? Now I'm speaking selfishly because I'm going to be there tonight, and of course, throughout the weekend, catching up with the 05 celebration. But Shane Smith is supposed to start tonight. Don't have him start this afternoon. What are you doing, Venable? And the reason why I'm really upset at this, LaKeena, yes, you can tell the people who's starting tonight. That's why I'm really upset as well. But with the White Sox getting that victory on Wednesday in that series finale against Toronto, it sets them up perfectly for this series against the Guardians. And if you could take at least 2 games from Cleveland heading to the All-Star break, that will give this team confidence and to set themselves up to do bigger things in the second half. I'm not saying they're going to the playoffs. I'm not saying they're competing for a wild card. That's not what this year is about. Get those young guys in there, as we said before. Quality at bats. See if they fit what this team has planned going on in the future. You give out the pitching matches because I don't want to say something stupid that's going to get me kicked off of here.
It'll be Shane Smith versus Logan Allen in that first game of that doubleheader. Then you have Jonathan Cannon versus Gavin Williams in the second half of that doubleheader there. Sean Burke against Tanner Big B, I think that's how you say his name, and Savali against Joey Cantillo. So those are your matchups for that 4-gamer against the Guardians, which starts later this afternoon.
Yeah, like I said, if you could take 2 or 4 from Cleveland, I think that, like I said, it's going to set you up what you're supposed to do in the second half of the season, and it's going to get this young guys confidence going into the break. You hopefully get some more at bats for Edgar Carroll. You like what he's doing behind the plate, handling the pitcher staff. Hopefully, he heats it up again with his bat. Chase my drop, his average is dropping a little bit, but you like how he gets on base. You mentioned about Adrian Hauser trading him. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt between now and the trade deadline. Hope you get something for him. Luis Robert Jr. returned from injury the other day. I know he got an RBI in that series against Toronto. Hopefully he stays injury free so Chris gets to get a little something for him. And also too, don't forget about Mike Talman. A playoff contending team can use his at bat off the bench.
Well, including with his former team across town, so yeah, they could definitely use him for add more depth. So I'll be interested to see what happens in that matchup too. We'll talk more about the 05 White Sox and the celebrations of kind of at the top. But we're gonna take a really quick break. Of course, we'll talk the rest of baseball. And like I said, the Yankees look like they're back on track as they sweep Seattle. Okay. I'm leaving that alone. Leaving that alone. We've got. It looks like just when we thought the Mets were starting to kind of figure things out and everything else. So a little bit of struggling going on in the NL West as the Dodgers have lost 6 in a row. Is it time to panic in LA? Maybe not. We'll talk about that and a lot more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney, Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey Maggette, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to the hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow Yo Shuli on the Twitter, X, and the IG at CK80. Once again, it's CK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, execution again on IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment, and we're also going to finish up our conversation in the best and worst it was this past week in Major League Baseball. If you have any questions or comments on those subjects, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section of the kingdom and get the up on the screen for you.
Going back to the to baseball here, as everybody's finishing up their first half of the season. The Yankees, like I said, they have won 4 in a row. They got back on track as they swept the Mariners, and it'll be interesting though, like the bats, really kind of came alive in this series for them. Of course, Judge has hit another home run, and the crazy thing about that game yesterday against the Mariners, I should say, for the Yankees, they were actually getting no hits through 7. They came back. They were down 5-0. They came back to beat the Mariners.
Shout out to Jeffrey Osborne.
Yeah, like they rallied to beat it. Of course, Andrew Pulpit hit the game winner there, and also too, I guess that there was some tipping. I guess Cal Raleigh said there was some tipping with the base running. I guess so. Wait, you could have said something, during that whole thing, but then again, don't blow a 5-0 lead. We are no hitting the other team. I'm just saying, but whatever.
Yeah, I saw some of that first game. It was a home run show between Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge. I know those are the top two candidates for the American League MVP. Of course, you mentioned Seattle's bats woke up in this series, but their pitching took a step back. As we mentioned in our previous segment with the Cubs facing the Yankees at the Bronx this weekend, the Yankees bats are starting to wake up. They're starting to get healthy. Ever since they took the series finale last week against the New York Mets, they've been on the road. Cody Bellinger, he's doing it with the bat and with the glove. Aaron Judge is back on track. Giancarlo Stanton looks like he's starting to get back on track after returning from a season-long injury. And you mentioned about Chaz Chisholm Jr. Now he's going to move over to second base, and they cut DJ LeMahieu, a veteran guy who's been around for a long time. He just seems like he's not part of their plans. Obviously, he couldn't get it. He can't get it done. So GM Brian Cashman spoke to the media the other day, saying there was a tough decision to make, but they had to do it. So he's going to have another tough decision or two to make between now and the trade deadline in a couple of weeks, because as we mentioned on our last show, Clark Schmidt is down. We already know that Garrett Cole is out for the year. So Yankees need 2 starting pitchers, perhaps maybe an extra arm in their bullpen. So they already have the offense. It's just like they got to show up their bullpen and definitely get it started. Those are the top 2 needs they need right now.
It'll be interesting to see what Cashman does in the next couple of weeks here. Now, staying in the AL East, the Rays, they lose the first of 4 games to the Red Sox, and they lose 2 out of 3 against the Tigers. But they're still kind of like right there. They're only 4.5 back now. With the Red Sox, I know some Boston fans are already like celebrating. Like I said, they won that first game against the Rays. But let's also remember too, they swept the Rockies in the National. So I'm not at that. I'm not at that mindset of could the Red Sox perhaps maybe make a case in that division. We'll see the next couple of weeks again when they come back after the break. But I'm not buying Boston just yet.
I'm with you on that. I know they're on a 7-game winning streak, and like you said, you play the teams that you have to play on your schedule, and their bats have come alive. But when you face better opponents, that's when the real DNA of a team comes out. You mentioned with Boston, not to jump ahead a little bit, but when we come back from the All-Star break, they'll come here to Chicago to face the Cubs for a tough 3-game series. That's going to tell you what all you need to know about this year's Red Sox team. But give the credit, they play better there at home than they do on the road. And as we say all the time, you want to become a serious team, take care of the sub-500 teams. You got to raise your competition, teams that are better than 500. So the Red Sox are doing the first part. Let's see if they can do the second part.
Going into the AL Central, of course, Detroit, like I said earlier, they beat the Rays 2 out of 3. Of course, Skubal had another solid outing on Tuesday, so that definitely making a case for definitely for back-to-back AL Cy Youngs. Now the Royals, I know they've won 4 in a row. They sweep the Pirates. They swept the Pirates, but it might be too little, too late for them because the Detroit's up by like 12 or 13 games in the Central. So, pending if the Tigers completely collapse, I think that's the Tigers division. But it as of right now, none of these AL Central teams will be going to the any of these teams will be going to the wild card spot. So.
I said it a few times already. I'll say it again. The only team that's going to represent the AL Central in this year's playoffs is the Tigers. And watching some of that series, that opinion is not changing anytime soon. I said it 1,000 times. I said it 1,000 more. I like their bullpen. Some of the hitters are starting to come through, like Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson. So until can the Tigers be competitive in the AL in the American League playoffs? Sure, they can. But I think you had to give the slight edge to the Yankees. But the Tigers are not far behind, and they could compete with the Yankees and some of the other top teams like Houston because of their bullpen.
Yep, going to be very interesting with that. Now going into the AL West. Now the only reason why I guess you can say Houston's not pulling away because they got swept by the Guardians. So that that's the only reason why that they're both the Mariners and you could probably say the Rangers to me to some extent they still have a kind of an outside shot. But these next couple of weeks after the All-Star break is going to be the key here as to we'll talk about in the scheduling in a bit here, but the Mariners, they actually face the Tigers as they continue their East Coast trip as they wrap up in the break. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can at least gain a game or two before the break as, Houston, they'll face Texas. So that'll be interesting to see like how this AL West will be going here after the break.
Yeah, if you're a Houston Astros fan, obviously it stinks to get swept at home, but given the way that the other teams are playing in your division, that sweep is not so bad. Hopefully, it doesn't translate to a long losing streak and towards the end of the first half of the year. But like you mentioned with the Texas Rangers and your Seattle Mariners, mostly Texas, I think they're more in trouble than Seattle. But with Texas, they had to finish strong in the first half and then have a real strong run to start the second half next week. Because if they don't, as we talked about before, they have a couple of 2-3 pitchers that could be up could be available at the trade deadline, i.e. Jacob deGrom, i.e. Nathan Eovaldi. One of those guys sound great. If you're a Cubs fan, I believe so. So if Texas don't want to lose any players, they got to start winning right now.
Yep. So that's going to be interesting to see there in the AL West. Now going to the National League in the East, the Phillies had a tough week. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Giants, although they did it was in fact about after not getting swept. They shut out the Giants 13-0, keeping Mr. Verlander winless since joining the Giants.
Who would have predicted that?
Yeah, you would have thought that maybe the Giants are still all up there, but yeah, you would have thought that maybe that Verlander could add some experience, but he has been very good, so that's been kind of like the thing here, unfortunately. You probably say if you're the Phillies, you probably say they probably could have won 2 out of 3. But, Patrick Bailey's crazy inside the park home run that won it for the Giants. I know they're still smarting over that one. But, Bryce Harper busted a slump, in that game yesterday, to keep it from getting swept. So Phillies are, like I said, they need bullpen help. That's really they didn't really need it yesterday, but they really need the bullpen help. They want to try to keep the Mets at bay here. Although the Mets have their own problems, we'll talk about that in a second. But the Phillies are kind of an interesting squad nonetheless.
Yeah, they had the offense. They just need to shore up the back end of their bullpen. So we'll see what happens because, like we said at the start of the season, it's going to be a very competitive division. Looks like even though the Braves tried to get their ish together against the Oakland A's of Sacramento, as we called them on this show, I think it's a little bit too late for them. You talk about the Mets, we'll get to them in just a second. But Philadelphia is still hanging around this thing. Can they take the NL East? They sure can. But as you mentioned, they got to straighten out their bullpen.
The Mets, speaking of, they lose 2 out of 3 in Baltimore, including a day-night doubleheader yesterday. And, well, just when you thought, well, Gunnar Henderson hit a home run for the Orioles, that that kind of broke it open there in that second game. But yeah. I mean, the Mets are kind of interesting squad. I know they've had a lot of injuries. We'll see how they look these next couple of weeks after the break. But the Mets are kind of a interesting team, to say the least, because you thought that maybe they started to get things together, but then of course you saw what happened against Baltimore this week.
Yeah, we talked about it on the show this last couple of episodes. They have a couple of starting pitchers. Excuse me, they are down right now, including Cody Senga. Edwin Diaz is not having a great year. Their closer, they're almost doing a closer by committee. Manager Carlos Mendoza is trying to find answers right now. They have the offensive talent with Francisco Lindor, of course. Pete Alonso I have him as a top 3 NL MVP candidate. And you still have Jeff McNeil, who can surprise you with a couple of big hits as he plays the outfield now. But the Mets, they have some work to do. They need a starting pitcher or two at the trade deadline, and they need to have another solid bullpen arm as well. Will they get one of those two things? Only time will tell between now and July 31st.
Especially since one of the teams that in that division, the Braves, they've already said they're not going to trade anybody. So any rumors of Chris Hill coming to the Cubs, you can forget about that. The Marlins, I know some people say, well, maybe the Marlins could. Nope, they lose 2 out of 3 to they split their series against Cincinnati, but they have not played very well this last week, so you can probably forget about them. Perhaps maybe making some inroads here. Now going into the Central, of course, the Brewers. Thanks a lot, Dodgers, for not helping the Cubs, of course, but. Look! I'll give you Jackson Churio, Masowitz, who's the great young pitcher. We'll see. I don't know if he can keep it up, but we'll see what they can do there. Mizorowski, like I said, I don't know.
12 strikeouts in 5 innings. That's incredible. It really is.
Yeah. Even though he allowed that leadoff home run to Shohei, he struck out I think like 11 after that. So 12, I should say, after that. So. Look, I'm not, like I said, I'm not one of those people that's not going to freak out. But the Brewers are still a little bit too close to the defending champs in that division. We'll see if they can make any moves. They probably won't, because that's how they are. But I don't know if they'll be able to keep it up. But we'll see.
Yeah, the Brewers, congrats to them. They took advantage of the Dodgers' injury woes right now, and their bats actually heated up. Congrats to Andrew Vaughn, the former White Sox player. I know he hit a couple of home runs in that series. I saw some folks on White Sox Twitter talking about, the White Sox made a mistake of getting rid of him. No, they didn't. Stop it. Just stop it, please. Like I said, like we said when Andrew Vaughn was released, he's not a bad guy. Things just didn't work out for him here. He wasn't consistent enough. Good luck to him in Milwaukee. He's out to a hot start. Let's see if he can keep this up for the rest of the year. That's going to be a real tall tale sign.
The Cardinals won 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. So, like I said, I'm more worried about the Brewers. I know you said Cincinnati perhaps could make a move. They split their series against Miami. We'll see. But like I said, I don't know if they'll be a factor in the Central. But again, we'll see about that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting in this division here. But the Cubs, like I said, the Brewers really scare me more than anything, since they're the defending champs in that division. But again, I think we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks, as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline. Going out west to the Dodgers now. I know Dodger fans are already freaking out. They've lost 6 in a row. I would like to, like I said, it's been injuries, so I think you guys need to kind of chill with all that. But I think the Dodgers, like I said, they play the Giants this week. The Giants having their, of course, like I said, they won 2 out of 3 against the Phillies, but they're still 5 games ahead. I don't think this is a free-for-all for the Dodgers. I think they just need to get their guys healthy and back in the lineup.
And given the way the rest of that division has been playing as of late, if you're a Dodgers fan, you're still happy that the Dodgers are on top. If the Dodgers were in any other division, you can maybe make a case for them, the case for the NL Central. But if they were in any other division, they'll be second and third place. So, given the way that San Diego has played over the last few weeks, I know they split this series against the Diamondbacks. Given the way the Diamondbacks have played all year, despite their injuries, of course, we know about Colorado, they stink. But given the way that the rest of that NL West division has been playing, throughout the last few weeks. If you're a Dodgers fan, you should just still feel good. As we said at the start of the year, it's not about the Dodgers winning 120 games. That's not going to happen. They still may win 100 games, or at least get close to it. But get your guys healthy in time for the playoffs to go for another potential long run. That's what the season is about. Get as many guys healthy as possible.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to make a couple of moves here to try to kind of beef up, the
Mhm.
bullpen and those type of those things. So yeah, that might be the key here for the Dodgers. They want to say it now. The Padres, they split their series against the D-backs. So just when you thought that maybe they could make a little bit of a move with the Dodgers and their Rose, but they haven't. I think they only get like one game, so they're having their own issues over there in San Diego. So it's gonna get a little bit interesting. Like I said, I don't know what's gonna happen in that division, but I think the Dodgers will still end up winning it because that's too good.
Mhm.
Like I said, the key is gonna be just get their guys healthy.
Yeah, and what you talking about with the Padres, Dylan Cease got rocked in his last start, and that's not a good sign, especially with him heading towards his free agency. Let's see. We know that San Diego ownership is not afraid to make moves at the deadline. Can they make another move to get another starter and perhaps get another bat? I know Gavin Sheets is having a good year. I know that Fernando Tatis Jr. is one of your top players, not only on the team but in Major League Baseball. Manny Machado, congrats to him for collecting his 2000 career hit the other day. But they need another bat. They definitely need another starter. Let's see if they get one of those two things between now and the trade deadline.
All right, schedule time for these last few games going into the ending the first half of the MLB season. Of course, you got the Guardians and the White Sox in the first game of the day-night doubleheader. That'll be at 2:10. Then you got the Cubs and the Yankees, probably one of the series of the weekend kicking off. You got the Marlins and the Orioles. You got Colorado and Cincy. That Seattle-Detroit game, as I mentioned earlier, that first game will be on Apple TV Plus. Sorry, all you Seattle and Detroit fans. You gotta find other ways to watch that first game. Tampa Bay and Boston. Second game of that day and doubleheader with the Guardians and the White Sox, and you got the Mets hoping to get back on track as they face Kansas City. They've won 4 in a row, so we'll see if they can make some inroads here. You got Pittsburgh and Minnesota.
Yeah, finish out the rest of your schedule for tonight and for the weekend. Texas and Houston will do battle. Shout out to our guy Brandon in the chat. It's the battle of Texas of the Rangers and Astros will do battle in Houston. Houston's trying to get back on track. Texas trying to save face before the All-Star break. We have the Washington Nationals going 90 miles up north to face the Milwaukee Brewers at Miller Park. I'm not calling it that new corporate name. You have Atlanta traveling down south to take on the St. Louis Cardinals. Arizona and the Anaheim Angels will do an interleague battle in LA. The first game of that series will be airing tonight on Apple TV Plus at 8:30, just after 8:30 Chicago time. Philadelphia will face San Diego. That first game will air tonight at 9 o'clock on MLB Network. And we'll have Toronto at Sacramento taking on the Oakland A's of Sacramento. And the Dodgers and the Giants, most of the nation, will get that first game tonight on MLB Network starting at 9 o'clock.
The rest of your national schedule here, of course, you got the Cubs and the Yankees will be on MLB Network. Of course, those of you in Chicago will probably get the Mariners and the Tigers and that one too because of the blackout rules. The Fox game of the week here, regional coverage. You got most of the nation will get Texas and Houston, while others will get Philadelphia and San Diego. Of course, the other MLB game tomorrow night will be Blue Jays and Oakland, Sacramento, whatever you want to call them, the A's, I guess, or whatever we're going to call them. And of course, Sunday to wrap up the first half of the MLB season. Of course, the Cubs, Yankees game will be on MLB Network. Then there'll be Tampa Bay and Boston. Like I said, some of you, most of your Chicago will probably get that game. And your Roku TV game of the week here, you got the Giants hosting the Dodgers at 3:05 to finishing up that series. And like I said, no ESPN Sunday night baseball game. That's usually how they'll usually do that anyway. So that is go for this weekend MLB to wrap up the first half of the MLB season.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you, wrapping up hour number 1. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll have Julie Swieca Gannon join us for the rest of the show, and we'll have our girl Miss Christine the Queen Manika with her usual weekly hit. A couple minutes left to close out hour number 1. LaKeena, real quick. I didn't get a chance to see any of this game live. I saw a couple of clips on social media. Cooper Flagg and Bronny James Jr. did battle in Las Vegas yesterday. Cooper Flagg in his first unofficial game in Summer League action. He went 5 for 21, including 1 for 5 from 3-point range.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I didn't see the. I saw the highlights. I didn't see the game itself. I usually don't watch summer league games, but yeah, I mean, like I said, it kind of went as you thought it would be. I mean, like the Lakers and the Mavs, and of course the Mavs ended up winning that game 87-85. But yeah, it's kind of like crazy how all those things kind of all the cameras and such. They were all like hyping this game up for a summer league game in the middle of July. So, I guess only in America, I guess. But yeah, I mean, summer league is just like, okay. But the crazy thing is that our buddy Chris Bowden from WGN 9, of course, you can catch him tonight on game night at 10:30. There was this game between the Spurs and the Sixers that the 41. I think the Spurs ended up beating the Sixers, but like 40 points, something like that. They actually did a shot clock violation. They actually actually just ended the game even though the Spurs already had it in hand. So it's sounds like somebody had some parlays that they had to hit. So but they actually do parlays in summer league games, folks. But,
remember that famous line in Blue Chips? Someone must not have covered the spread.
Exactly. So that was a little bit nutty there.
Don't the Chicago Bulls start their summer league play today?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
No,
okay.
Yeah, tomorrow they start. They face Sacramento. Okay. You can watch that game on NBA TV. Well, actually, they do start tonight as well. They face Toronto tonight at 7:00. So you catch that game on. They actually have they actually have like little like regional stuff here on NBA TV. So I guess it's gonna really depend on your area, I guess. But yeah, that game will be on. Both those games will be on NBA TV tonight and tomorrow.
All right, stay tuned for more sports and more fun. That's a hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports continues with the special co-host Miss Julie Swieca Gannon and our homegirl Miss Christine the Queen Manika. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2, the hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded in real live and they live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
If you have any questions or comments for our next two guests, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get that up on the screen for you.
All right, folks. Let's not waste any more time. Of course, we got two of our favorites on with us. Of course, first off, she is our girl from KXRB. She is our weekend girl, Miss Christine, the Queen, Manika. Hey, Christine, what's up?
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
All right, keep it cool. I'm sure, and dry too. I know.
Yeah.
All right, we got another one of our favorites here. Of course, she's she's a former anchor and over at 670 The Score. You've seen her multiple times here on the show. She's one of our favorites as well. She's the one, the only Miss Julie Swieca Gannon. Julie, how are you?
Hey guys, hi Christine. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Julie?
I'm well. I'm so excited to be back on with these guys. LaKeena knows, like, she's one of my favorite females on Sox Twitter stuff. And it's nice to talk to you too. And of course, Sid, you're the man, so it's all good.
Oh, thank you. It goes. That compliment goes great with my ego, so I appreciate it.
Well, Julie, you'll be happy to know that Christine is also a White Sox fan. So
I am.
I was hoping.
Yeah.
Yes. Can't go on the blue side. Never.
Oh yeah. Well,
I'm married to a guy who's following the North Siders and like diehard as it gets. And we had a Cubs Sox wedding reception.
Oh, I love it. That's
fun.
Awesome.
It was fun. We served Derek Lee's Cabernet and Mark Beuhrle's Beuhrle, which were both for their charities.
Oh yeah.
So those were our wines at the tables. And we have Derek Lee's bottle signed. We do not have Beuhrle's signed. So I'm thinking like, hey, Mark, if you have a few free minutes this weekend and you want to sign a bottle for us, we'll give you the rest we have left over.
There we go.
Another case. So
send it my way too. I'll take the case.
Okay.
I love it.
It's just cool. We bought them before we were even engaged because we both love baseball. And we knew if we ever got married, we were going to serve them at our wedding reception. And we told the bartenders and the servers, save us all the bottles. So we have empty bottles with wine in them. It's just, like I said, it's really cool that we have the Derek Lee one signed.
Yeah.
But, Beuhrle's like he's the holy grail of Sox autographs.
Right.
So if you ever did a signing, I've planted this seed with people before. If Mark Beuhrle did a signing, just a signing, and donated the money to charity, because I know he's big on like animal rescues down in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. If he donated the money to charity, it would be a mob scene. He would have so many people who want him on their World Series stuff.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I've got one or two things that my husband bought for me, but they weren't things we got signed in person.
Yeah.
I think every Sox fan on the planet would line up just to say hi, tell him how much we love him. And I got my Beuhrle jersey on, so I'm repping. I'm ready.
You're ready to go.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. My favorite Sox player of all time, by far.
Are you going to be before we get started, are you going to be in attendance tonight or this weekend, Julie?
So I was not going to be there this weekend, but then our buddy Colin from the 108 said to me today, hey, I've got a couple extra tickets for tomorrow. And I said, stop right there. I will take them. So I'm very excited. I'm certainly going to be glued to the broadcast tonight. I'm sure that CHSN will show all the, tribute to the former players. I can't even grab the idea of what it's going to be like. Like,
Yeah.
are they going to march out from center field? Are they going to put him in the cars like they do on opening day? I can't even imagine what that moment's going to be like.
Yeah, yours truly is going to be there all weekend, and of course, including tonight. So, like I said, it should be fun. But as LaKeena said on our show on Monday, it's going to be slightly bittersweet because of the passing of Bobby Jenks. Julie, I'll start with you. Where were you when the news dropped last weekend?
I think I was at home, but I just remember like thinking that can't be right. And we knew he was sick. We knew he was battling cancer. But I just, from everything I'd heard about how hard he was trying to get here for this weekend, I thought, oh, that's such a kick in the teeth. That's not even funny, God. Like, it's great that they can pay tribute to him. It's great that the guys are wearing the patches on their jerseys. But it really just stinks because he was so beloved by the fans, by his teammates. And, just a good guy, that big, lovable teddy bear on the mound who was ferocious when he started pitching. Like I said, I looked at it a couple of times and I was texting some of my Sox fan friends, and all of us were just kind of like in a state of disbelief. We knew it was going to happen at some point, but to have it, as you guys said, like the bittersweet aspect of he was going to be celebrated with his teammates this weekend, and now they're, doing in memoriam type stuff. It's just heartbreaking and sad for his wife and kids too.
Christine?
Yeah, it's hard enough that he was battling cancer. Then back in January, that's when the wildfires in the Palisades started, and he lost his house during the Palisades fire. And then he was continuing his treatment. I believe it was somewhere in Europe. I forget which country it was at, but he was currently in Europe taking care of his health at that time. And I was in Colorado actually when I heard the news, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bummer right before the big celebration, the big 20th anniversary. Ironically enough, the Sox were in Colorado last week and playing the Rockies, and the Rockies did a really nice tribute, a moment of silence for Bobby Jenks during that game. So that was awesome to see. And it was also to see even some fans go out there in front of the statues of I'm always going to call it US Cellular because I don't know what it's called anymore, but it's up in the air with what it's called. But it was great to see, putting up some flowers, some pictures, signs for Bobby Jenks. I mean, so young, 44 years old, and still had so much life to live. And I know he would have given anything to be there this weekend, but now he's got the best seat in the house. So he is going to be there in a way.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing with the White Sox, of course, I know CHSN is going to do a great job now that people can finally watch it. I'm sure they're going to have it available on YouTube as well. The whole celebration. Christine, I'll start with you, and I'm sure you've told us this like years ago, but where were you when they clinched and the biggest, probably, I know for your lifetime, it's probably the biggest moment as a White Sox fan.
Yeah, I was in fourth grade, so I was 10 years old, and that's when I was just kind of starting to become a White Sox fan or just a baseball fan in general. And it was electric throughout my school, throughout my house. There are a couple of Cubs fans in the family, so even they were a little excited for the White Sox going to the series and clinching it. And what a moment that is for Chicago, a bright spot that we still hold on to for the future of the team. But it's nice to look back at seeing some of those big moments. Bobby Jenks getting the last strikeout to close it out and to win the World Series. Paul Konerko, Jermaine Dye getting those home runs in clinch moments. AJ Brzezinski, just the Chicago greats, as I like to call them, as I remember it.
Julie?
I was just watching it in my family room by myself. I felt like if I was at a bar or like hanging out with friends, I wouldn't get to just absorb everything. When like people have Super Bowl parties or something like that, and you just want to watch the game. You want to be like, shh. So I felt like I just wanted to sit there and absorb the entire experience myself. And I remember when the final out was made, I just remember crying. I was so overwhelmed with emotion. And as a lifelong White Sox fan, to know that they finally reached the promised land, as somebody who thought they would get to the World Series in '94 and then the baseball strike canceled that. I mean, I honestly just felt like this wave of emotion for everybody, for all White Sox fans, especially the ones who were older and didn't know if they'd see it in their lifetime. And I mean, I have goosebumps right now, even just talking about it. I just remember that washing over me of like just a release of emotion, and that it was so dominant, that those were 4 games against the Astros that their pitching staff was untouchable. And you know, obviously, you know, their starters were great throughout the playoffs, but the one time I remember like being somewhere where I kind of, you know, lost my mind was the series against the Red Sox, where I was working in my first cake decorating job, and I got so excited when they advanced, I like knocked over a stack of sheet pans, which are big, loud metal pans.
Yes.
Everybody in the bakery was like, what the heck's going on? But I had it like on the radio in the kitchen, and you know, nobody else is listening. They weren't Sox fans. But to me, that like clatter was almost like me shooting off fireworks or something. Like, ta-da!
Yeah. Not speaking of Pope being there, I almost forgot to mention about Pope Leo being front and center during the action.
Right.
Yes, he was right there.
Yeah.
If we got a guy on our side in our corner right now that's got a little bit of pull, we better be back in the World Series in the next few years.
Yep. We got some pull a little bit.
I like it, Christine. I like it.
For those of you that are going that have gone to Sox games recently and they are going this weekend, stop by section 140 and stop by there early to get that picture of that mural, because it's become a quite of attraction right there at Sox Park. I'm not calling it a corporate name, you can forget it. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid, LaKeena hanging out here with you. We got our girl Christine, the Queen Manika. We got Julie Swieca Gannon hanging out here with us. Christine, before we get to our, I know you you still got some time with us before you got a jet at the bottom of the hour. Mark Beuhrle, of course, is getting that statue tonight. It's going to be located outside of section 105 in right field. What are your favorite moments from Mark Beuhrle?
Oh, what can compare to the perfect game? Can we be honest about that? Like, I don't think there's anything that can really compare to it. But I remember when he came back and they retired his number, and we went to that game, and to see even, you know, some of the old teammates come back together, and to see Mark Beuhrle there for one of the first times he came back to Sox Park, and to see his number getting, you know, revealed. And it was amazing to see that and to be a part of that moment.
And Christine, to piggyback on that, I was at that game as well. And I remember like I'm holding up, you know, poster board signs I made, and one of them said number 56, still number 1 in our hearts.
Yeah.
And like I was so proud holding up that sign. Who cares if Beuhrle saw it or not? But the one thing I remember from that day, I know he didn't really want to make a speech, which he has said about this weekend as well. But I remember his son singing the national anthem, and just that little dude had the voice of an angel, and that it meant so much to Beuhrle to have his son singing it. I'm sure his wife and kids will be there tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, that perfect game. I have it on right now because they're replaying it. I have it on in our sports basement. And every time I see him walking off the field, cool as a cucumber, I'm just like, oh, he's so awesome. Just like his demeanor, he was just down to earth and funny. And, his grandma used to be sitting in the friends and family section with her little headphones on, like the little Radio Shack headphones. Listening to the radio call while he was pitching. And I'd be like, there's Grandma Beuhrle. So cute. This just cute little grandma. But just the fact that he was so down to earth and unaffected by anything. And then here's this guy who's throwing out a no-hitter in a perfect game.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard people say, and I don't know what kind of inside intel you guys have, but I've heard people speculating about what the statue is going to look like. And I said, well, you know, everything the commercials show, it looks like it's going to be him pitching. But I've seen people say they want the statue to be this, where he's, you know, I can't believe I just did that. Or him sliding up the top. There's so many great Beuhrle moments that, I mean, I'm sure they'll have them on the Jumbotron as they're doing the statue ceremony. But it's just everything about Mark Beuhrle just makes Sox fans smile. Is there a single Sox fan on earth that has a bad thing to say about him? I don't think so.
Maybe Cubs fans.
Right. Okay. So true story. And I might have told this to Sid and LaKeena before. So I'm married to a Cubs fan. And my husband used to argue with me that Ted Lilly was a better pitcher than Mark Beuhrle.
Oh, geez.
And to this day, we still have this argument, even after Beuhrle's accomplished all he has. So I'm home watching the perfect game and he's not at my house. We weren't married yet. And he was at so I called him when the final out was made, and I call him up. He answers his cell phone. And I go, F Ted Lilly, F Ted Lilly. Mark Beuhrle just pitched a complete game, perfect game. And he's really quiet. He's like, I'm at the school right now. He was like in a parent conference with my stepson's teacher. As
Oh my gosh.
Screaming F Ted Lilly, and it's pouring through the phone. But I mean, he was the first person I wanted to call and tell, like, you lose this argument. You lose.
Yeah.
He'll still argue that, well, for that period of time, Ted Lilly was better. Overall body of work, not even close.
Not even close.
It'll be interesting to see yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting if Dwayne Wise is there. Of course, he made that catch to save that perfect game for Beuhrle. So I'm wondering if he's going to be there. I know he was. I don't think he even played. I think he was hurt that year, because the year before 05 he was with the Braves. But I'll be interested if he's there. I'm sure he's going to be there tonight. I'm sure, for that ceremony. So it'll be interesting to see. That whole thing. Like, as long as Beuhrle's statue doesn't look like a D Wade statue. If y'all see all that statue, I would hope they get that guy to do that. So I'm sure as long as they get that guy to do his statue, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. The cross-eyed especially. Let's not do that.
No. Oh God, no.
Let's not.
Exactly.
He might make his kids cry with the cross-eyed. Don't do that.
Man, they'll be confused.
Don't do that at all. You listen to Second Seed Sports on Sports of Chicago with Sid, LaKeena, our peeps, Chrissy Mack from KXRB, and Julie Swieca Gannon from formerly 6-7 to score, of course. A baking extraordinaire and all the other good stuff that she does. So, what do you guys synopsis with the White Sox? Today's White Sox. I mean, we've said it before, like, they're kind of the fun bad parts. We're the fun bad part of the rebuild now. They're still bad, but they're actually not as bad. I mean, look at the Rockies. So, Julie, I'll start with you. What do you think?
It would be hard for them to be as bad. Thank God they're not. But I find just there's so many situations where I think, last year's team would have screwed this up. They still ground into too many double plays. They still make some boneheaded moves on the base paths. But for the most part, I love what Will Venables got them buying into. I love that they just seem to be a smarter team. And one of my favorite things about this team, and you guys can tell me if you have picked up on the same vibes, but just the fact that they've all kind of come through together. They've all been coming up through the minors together. They've been roommates together in Charlotte. They're so close, and they're too young to know better, to know like the cynicism. So when I see all the pitchers sitting in the dugout hanging out, or a new guy comes up and they all put him under their wing. Like, to me, that chemistry goes a long way. It's not the only reason teams win championships, but it's a big factor. So I love what I'm seeing in these young guys encouraging each other, embracing each other. Plus, the new guys that the Sox have brought in that Chris Getz has managed to find. But this core, when you see like the Mydras, the Jonathan Cannons, now we're starting to see Teal and Elko. When you start seeing these guys come together, and of course, Colson Montgomery this week, I sort of feel like, boy, these guys are going to be here for a while, and they're going to be learning together and learning to do things right. And for those of us that are following, you're in on the ground level. You know that you're seeing something build.
I like what you said, Julie, with that word together. I think that was lacking within the last couple of years, especially last year. I don't know. And I said this to Sid and LaKeena a couple of times. I don't know what it was, but the vibe just wasn't there. There wasn't any camaraderie. There was a lot of anger towards each other. But now when you bring in a new manager, some younger guys that are excited to get their shot, to get their chance in the big leagues, it's exciting. It's very exciting to do something together as a team, grow together as a team, instead of just be mopey all the time and lose all the time. Now they're still losing, but like you said, it's not last year. They're better than last year, so it's an improvement.
And how far ahead they are of last year's pace.
Yeah,
I saw like they had won their 32nd game in like early August, and they've already won that. Their 33rd win didn't come until September. So the fact that they're, on a better pace, but I love what you said, Christine, about, how last year just had a bad vibe. And then after the season, when you hear guys coming out and saying, oh yeah, the clubhouse was awful and this and that, like, as you're watching it, you sense something wasn't clicking, but you didn't really know what. And maybe, I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but what kind of I don't know, is my picture in my head of it just being forced was, you know, how when guys hit a home run, they come back and people put on goofy hats and stuff. And they were doing that like gangster, like cloak with the fedora. And it was so forced and so uncomfortable. And when a team is building this chemistry and this camaraderie, it's organic. It's not forced. It's just like, you know, like I always love when the guys are being interviewed in the dugout or whatever, and guys are throwing gum and sunflower seeds, and to see them all cracking up, like Jonathan Cannon is the master of it, but to see them all laughing about it, like you don't need, hey, you put on this weightlifting belt or, you know, put on this goofy Spartan hat. I we had that the other day. You know, I think when you see that and it feels forced, it's like, you know, when you're posing for a picture and instead of smiling naturally, you're like, that's how I feel that White Sox team was the last 2 years. And so if it's just them goofing around and hanging out and everything and having fun together, I love hearing that like some of the guys go out to dinner together. I don't even remember who the call-up was where Mydroth gave the guy his shirt or vice versa. The guy got called up and he didn't have a dress shirt. So one of the guys gave it to the other guy. And then when the guy who gave it up got called up, I wish I could think who. I know Mydroth was involved. But it was like they're sharing clothes with each other as they're getting called up to the big leagues. Like, dude, you got to look good in the bigs, you know, take my dress shirt. Like stuff like that. It just has like a very, almost like a college dorm kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And I like it.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's easier to do when you have no expectations, so you get these guys a chance to grow, and you start to see some of that talent here right now. We have a few minutes left with Christine. Of course, Julie's going to stay on with us for the rest of the show. Since we have a few minutes left with you, Christine, we're going to try something on the show that me and LaKeena have never done before. We're going to take an unofficial survey, thanks to John Greenberg in The Athletic, of course, with the sports medium, Chicago sports media poll that came out yesterday. We won't get to all the questions. We'll get to some of the key questions. And be careful with your answers. You know, we won't be recording this, quote unquote. So we'll get started. Christine, I'll start with you. I think this is an easy one for you. What's your favorite sports radio station outside of KXRB? Is it 670 Score or ESPN?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough one because I like some teams on both sides, but I think I got to go with the Score.
I don't think we had to answer this one for you, Julie.
I mean, is there any other choice?
Throw a curveball just for the heck of it.
I mean, honestly, I still have a lot of friends there. I do listen all day long. I'm, you know, telling Alexa to put it on and I'm listening in the car. But I also think for, you know, just an impartial view of it, Chicago wants local talk. Chicago doesn't want to hear national talk. And when I'm listening to the Score, if they're carrying national programming on the weekends, I really don't want to hear about who the Florida Panthers might be drafting. I couldn't care less. I want to hear someone talking about my teams in my city. And I think that's just as an objective observer, that's where the Score beats ESPN hands down.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm getting a slight edge. It's nothing to do with the fact that we've had a lot of those friends on the show too.
Right.
So.
All right. What's your favorite sports radio show in Chicago right now? Mullion Hall, Captain J Hood, Rahimi and Harris, Carmen and Yurko, Spiegel and Holmes, or Waddle and Silvery? I'll start with you, Christine.
Why? It's between, this is why I was going back and forth, because I love Waddle and Sylvie and I love Spiegel and Holmes. Can I pick both of them and just call it a day? Those are my top two in no particular order.
It's a tie, right?
It's a tie. It's a tie. Yeah.
It's your list. Look, it's your list. You know, do however you want.
I would agree. I love Spiegel and Holmes. You know, I like all the Score shows. I think Mully and Haw do a great job in the morning, kind of getting me, you know, acclimated to what happened last night or what's going on that morning. And I love those guys as human beings. Spiegel and Holmes, not only do I love them as people, but it's a really nuanced show. It's smart, but there's like a lot of like pop culture references, and I'm around the same age with those guys. So when they'll drop some like movie or music reference, I'll be texting Lawrence during the show. And my favorite about Lawrence, there's so much to love about him, but Lawrence will refer to Minnesota as the dumbass twins.
As he should.
And every time he says dumbass twins, I text him. He's like, I say that just for you. But the first time he said it, I just lost it laughing. And I texted him. I'm like, that was hilarious. So, I mean, Minnesota, we can call them any bad name they want, but that one just tickles my funny bone every time he says it.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well,
a couple more questions here before we let Christine go. Does the Score and ESPN 1000 talk too much Bears? No, I love it year round. Yes, too much, or 3 Bears.
Ooh, I think I gotta go with Bears.
They have it set up. I didn't write these questions. They have it set up like this.
I like it when, if it was like Joe Buck talking about the Bears, I'd say, all right, you're just being biased, and I would kind of turn it down a little bit. But if it's the local guys talking about it, I mean, yeah, because they're going to know the inside perspective more than any of these national guys will, no matter who it is reporting out there. The local guys just do it better, and you like hearing the camaraderie that they have with the coaches and the players as well.
And I feel disloyal if I don't say Bears. Somewhere Mark Beuhrle would be cringing that I didn't choose that option. I kind of feel like right now it's a little too much,
Yeah.
But I also think that's just the Bears' optimism right now. I guess I cringe at it a little more when it's like there are a million other things you could be talking about, and you're talking to the Bears' 4th string, blah blah blah. But I do feel like this year there's so much optimism and excitement that it does warrant more talk. And as a Sox fan, I want to hear Sox talk all the time, but when the Sox are bad and the Bears have the whole Caleb and Ben Johnson excitement train rolling, I get it, and I even understand more Cubs talk than Sox talk because they're a better team right now. But sometimes the Bears hey, the schedule just came out, let's break down wins and losses. It's like, really, we got months to do that. But I feel disloyal. I'm sure some.
That's what I mean, LaKeena. We do our. Yeah, that's what I mean, LaKeena. We do our predictions at the end of August because there's a whole lot of factors that go into it. Like injuries and things along that line. Well, one more question before we let you go, Christine. Which is your favorite TV post-game show? Chuck and Ozzy for the White Sox. Cole Wright with the Chicago Cubs and McGee. The Bulls with Jason Goff and Kendall Gill. The Blackhawks with Pat Boyle and Kaylee Chelios and company. The Bears on Marquee with Cole Wright and others. And Dave Wanstead. Or E, I do not watch any of these.
I like Chuck and Ozzy because
that's their choices. I didn't write these.
I like Chuck and Ozzy because Ozzy tends to have no filter at times, and he'll say what's on his mind with no regrets whatsoever. Chuck is kind of like the guy that holds the team together and reels Ozzy in, if that makes sense, if he gets unfiltered a little bit. But that's what I like about Ozzy. So yeah, I like that they're so straightforward. Even when the Sox are bad, he will be the first one to say it.
Absolutely. Christine, you and I are on the same page on that.
Yeah.
I love Ozzy just for the humor content. I mean, I love when he's calling guys out, breaking stuff down. But I mean, that's why you have Steve Stone on the broadcast to break down the mechanics and all that. Ozzy, a week or so ago, did his impression of Flo Rida.
Oh, it was hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Dying. But I mean, you're right. He is no
filter.
Chuck is trying to kind of just keep him on course. Don't let him drop any, F-bombs or anything. Chuck is kind of steering the ship, and Ozzy's like, woohoo, yacht party. And I love it. I love when he talks about his grandkids. I love the ribbing over who's winning pick to click. I think it's such a fun broadcast. And it's, all the ones you named are really good. But that one by far is just must-see TV.
Yep.
All right, Chris, I know you got a jet. So where can you find you on the social media and all that other good stuff?
Yeah, they can follow me on Twitter at @CManika_KXRB or X, whatever you call it.
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah, me too.
That too. Yeah, exactly. Okay, Christine, thank you so much for joining us again. Are you going to be back with us next week or?
Yeah, the summer is so busy, guys. I need 2 energy drinks today, or a very large coffee. One of the two.
Christine,
Well,
it was so nice talking to you. I'm going to follow you on Twitter as soon as I get done with the guys. And I can't wait to correspond with you more.
Yeah, same here, Julie. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Well,
Bye, Christine.
All right. Well, don't
Bye, guys.
over-caffeinate. So, yeah. So,
All right, Christine.
Too late. Bye.
Bye.
All right, Christine.
All right, that was Christine Beffert from KXRB. So, say where you want to go to next.
We got to take a break and cool off because we still got the second half to go with Julie. We got to get into a lot of stuff with her, with the Bears, finish up with the White Sox, and the NBA starting to form their broadcast teams for their new broadcast partners from this year. That and a whole lot more. You stick and stay right here on Second City Sports. # Friday Fun right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Oops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the # Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded in real live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee on the Twitter, again on IG.
We're still hanging out with our very special guest, Miss Julie Swieca Gannon. If you have any questions or comments for her, just follow me your way by going to our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, let's all talk some Bears here now. Again, we won't do records here, like we said, we're not doing that till the end of August. So yeah, the whole thing, Julie, you were right. Yeah, before we went to break, I mean, But yeah, what are your synopsis for the Bears this year?
I think I'm buying into the enthusiasm and the excitement. Hope springs eternal. And I think a lot of that is the Ben Johnson factor. I think people are excited to see what he can do with Caleb Williams. This is our quarterback. This is who we're rolling with. But how much more can he do, Caleb, with somebody who's a little bit better at running an offense and guiding a young player? There's still a lot of questions about Ben Johnson. I don't think we can right off the bat say, oh, he's the savior. He's going to take us to the Super Bowl this year. There's still a growing process. But I think my excitement is only slightly tempered because we're Bears fans at heart, because we want to believe that, oh my gosh, this is our year. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl this year, but I feel like for the first time in a long time, I feel like they've got the right coach. They've got a star quarterback that has a lot of potential, who hopefully has watched tapes of what he did last year and can learn from that. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I would love to say I think they'll win 10 games, but I haven't done the breakdown game by game yet. So that could just be the Bears Kool-Aid talking. Bears.
Speaking of the Bears, how concerned are you, even though we haven't started training camp yet, that's in the next couple of weeks, how concerned are you about the offensive line? We saw what it was last year. They gave up 67 sacks. Of course, they made the trade for the veteran from Kansas City. His name escapes me for the moment. I know they picked up Drew Dalman, the center from the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, you have Darnell Wright going into his third year out of Tennessee. How concerned are you about the offensive line? And do you think they'll make some strides this year?
I sure hope so. I think that was one of the best things the Bears did as soon as the season ended, was start solidifying that offensive line. The fact that they got Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson,
Yes.
sorry. Like you said, the fact that they've got a new center in Drew Dalman, the fact that they recognized right off the bat, I mean, it's hard not to recognize last year that that offensive line was a disaster. You have to keep your quarterback upright. It all starts with giving Caleb time to throw. And his pocket presence still needs work. His, on the fly decision-making still needs work, but he was getting clobbered back there. So, Sid, when you mentioned the 68 sacks, like that seems to have been a hallmark of the Bears for a while now. I mean, when like Jay Cutler was getting sacked 9 times a game or whatever it was. I mean, these guys have been getting beat up for years. And I know nobody likes to see high draft picks go to offensive linemen. I'm one of them. I remember when they drafted Mark Colombo. Like, I want to see the glitzy, wide receiver, quarterback, running back. That's why I think it's really cool when you drafted, those players, those flashier guys, your offensive studs in the top of the draft. And then you went out in free agency signings, trades, and got some help for the offensive line and veteran help, which will hopefully make Caleb better, make everybody better. And we're not sitting there watching the refs throw their flag on the offensive line like every other play.
Now, I think another concern that some people have is the defense. Now, of course, you've got Montez Sweat. The secondary is still really solid. We'll see how Brisker looks, Jalen Johnson and such. But yeah, that front seven, of course, they beef it up with Grady here. That's going to help that part of that defense. But that front four, the edge rush, that's going to be the key here. So what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with all the names you threw out about the front four. But I also think a big part of what we've liked about them the last few years is that secondary. We love those DBs. And it starts up front. You have to stop things in the trenches. But I'm really thinking with a little bit better health in, your safeties, your cornerbacks. I think you've got some good deep help that maybe we haven't seen as much of because of the injuries. But I do agree with you. I think you've got some help in the defensive line. And if you're getting help on the defensive line, you're getting help on the offensive line, everybody behind them on that side of the ball is better. So, and I agree with you. I'm excited to see Sweat, not dripping sweat, the player Sweat. I'm excited to see his impact this year. And even I'm curious to see what Dennis Allen has as a defensive coordinator, to see how he impacts this defense. Ben Johnson's got his guys in place. He knows who he wants to delegate things to. So I'm really curious to see how that coaching staff impacts things as well.
Sticking with the defense, Julie, I wanted to bring up these two players, Gervon Dexter and Tyreek Stevenson. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I think this may be the end of the line for Gervon Dexter. I want to get your thoughts on that. And Tyreek Stevenson going into his third year out of the University of Miami. We all know what kind of year he had last year. Well, what are your prognostication for both these guys this year? Because I think so goes their performances. Hopefully, it'll be trending on the way up. So goes their defense.
Yes, I agree with you. You've got one guy who's probably end of the line and one guy who's just scratching the potential. I think Tyreek Stevenson showed us a little bit of what he could do last year. I think his arrow's pointing straight up. And I think they've also, I want to say they got Zach Frazier through the draft to help the cornerback room. So I feel like what we've seen of Tyreek Stevenson is really promising. But again, you just hope that everybody can stay healthy, everybody can contribute. The second you start to lose guys in that secondary and you're getting burned on deep throws, I mean, I feel like when the Bears get down, when they're down a couple touchdowns, you're putting a lot of pressure on everybody. So if you could avoid that deep ball and have guys who can kind of guard the goal line for you on those passes, I really think, again, not to be a broken record, but I think they could have been a lot better in that area, in that meeting room, if they had healthy guys last year. I think we saw a lot of guys that had potential that we had hope for. And then as soon as guys start going down, you're just scrambling to patch it together. And I feel that same way about the offensive line. Like, I can't be too angry at these guys if they're giving up sacks and not performing, because our expectations were low. Either, they were buried on the depth chart, or they were guys you brought in knowing they might not be a starter and they were forced to play. So, you're moving guys around to different positions. I think, it's kind of underrated how you do need some guys who, as we're talking about bringing in these guys from around the league, it's underrated that these guys hopefully will make you that much better just by not setting you back yards every play, that you're not moving backwards, you're moving the right direction instead of taking all these penalties. And I'm drawing a blank on who the one that drove me and my husband nuts. Every time there was a flag, we're like, oh, it's him again. And I can't think of who it was, but it's definitely one of the offensive linemen. And you feel bad picking on these guys, but you're sitting home watching on your couch as a fan, and you're just like throwing pillows at the TV because you're so tired of seeing the same old story from the offense.
Well, how do you think the Bears measure up against the rest of the NFC North? I mean, you've got Minnesota and all the moves they made. Green Bay, Detroit. I mean, we'll see how they look without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. Yep. So what do you think?
I mean, you nailed it. Detroit, they lost their coordinators. They're going to be a little weakened by that. I know Minnesota's been formidable, but I really think the rest of the division should be worried about the Bears. The Bears, if they can develop their young up and coming quarterback, that's certainly something to fear. I hope the Bears are competitive. I hope they're giving these guys a run for their money. We know they can beat Green Bay. And I have no love for Jordan Love. I honestly, there's so much punk. I was going to say something else. There's so much punk trash talking in quarterbacks around the league. And I know it's not exclusive to Green Bay, but when they do it, I just get mad. I'm just like, okay, stay out of our stands, leave our fans alone. Back to Aaron Rodgers saying he owns the Bears and all that. No love for me with Jordan Love. I honestly think maybe some of the other teams in the division regress to the mean a little bit, and maybe the Bears are coming up a little bit. So, it's great if it's a competitive division. It's great if you have a bunch of guys fighting it out for playoff spots. And I think we kind of saw that last year, that there was good competition. So, I really hope the Bears start to put their dynasty together and the Packers is just dropping off, because we've all been there, done that. We're kind of tired of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned with the Packers, they went 1-5 in the division last year, and they made the playoffs before losing to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So, and plus, I had Jordan Love on my fantasy team last year. People forget, excuse me, he was injured all of last year. He injured his He injured his knee on opening night in Brazil against Philadelphia, the team they lost to in the playoffs, as I mentioned. And he had that hamstring injury against Jacksonville in the middle of the year, which he couldn't really recover. So he had the heels injury real last year. But if Green Bay goes 1-5 again, or even 2-4 in the division, they're not making the playoffs. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you 100%.
You listen to Second City Sport. Yeah.
No. Go ahead.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena, hang on here with you. We're kicking it with our homegirl, Chicago Sports Radio pioneer, Miss Julie Swieca Gannon. Julie, let's go back to baseball. We'll make your husband happy with just a couple of minutes.
I have one Bears thing I wanted to bring up because it pissed me off this week, and I guess it's good that the Bears are generating attention. I got the little text from the Bears and the email from the Bears that free tickets were about to be made available for their training camp practices, the ones people can go watch at Hallis Hall. Mm-hmm. I swear I jumped on it as fast as I could. And at one point there was a Saturday practice I was trying to get tickets for. Mm-hmm. I was 6,500 back in the queue. 6,500 people in front of me. And I literally hopped on as fast as I saw it. And I saw all sorts of people saying the same thing, that those tickets were sold out, for free tickets, sold out. They were snapped up so fast. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of that is the optimism and people saying like, hey, I want to go check out how Caleb's doing. I want to go see Ben Johnson. But I go back to the days of even before Bourbonnais when they were in Platteville, the Super Bowl Bears, you could just walk up to practice and watch these guys. You could see Mike Ditka. You could see Dan Hampton. You could see Jim McMahon. Mm-hmm. And now that it's such a hot ticket, part of me was kind of mad. Like, I really wanted to go. And, I'm glad they have attention. I'm glad people are excited about them. But, man, that Ticketmaster jam was so depressing. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, Ticketmaster is known to do fishy stuff like that in the past. But that's a whole nother story in itself. Me personally, on another show that I worked, another show that I worked with years ago, LaKeena, the old D and Davis show. We covered training camp for 3 years, and I miss going down to Bourbonnais because it wasn't that far of a drive. But that too is a whole nother story. I'll make your husband happy with our next topic, and we'll talk about the Chicago Cubs. Of course, they avoided the sweep by beating the Minnesota Twins yesterday, 8-1. Shota Imanaga is back. But Jed Hoyer, no one has to tell him that his job is on the line this year. The Cubs are still a couple of games ahead in the NL Central over Milwaukee. Julie, what will Jed do between now and the trade deadline? Do you think he goes against that starting pitcher? And will they add an extra bullpen guy?
I think pitching, which is always coveted at the deadline. But I think especially with the Cubs, I think that's where Jed's looking. I don't want him to take Adrian Hauser away from us. Absolutely not. We got to pick up a couple of their minor league studs, then maybe. But I think he's got to be looking starting pitcher for sure. And that bullpen has kind of evened out a little bit lately. The last month or so, they've been better. But early in the year, there wasn't a guy coming out of that pen you felt comfortable with. So I'm sure he'll go pitching, and especially because that offense is so dominant. I mean, it's nothing for them to go out and hit 8 home runs in a game. As the Sox are like scraping by 1-0 or losing by 1 run. So I think it's got to be pitching, and I know that's so coveted at the deadline. I think the biggest thing for the Cubs is what are they willing to give up, because they have the talent in their minor leagues to go and get big name pitchers that are being dangled. It's a matter of, and I think every team's fan base feels the same way. Nobody wants to give up their guys in the minors because we all believe they're the next Babe Ruth. It's like, oh, well, we don't want to part with so-and-so. This goes back to my days with Joe Borchard, where I'm like, you can't get rid of him. He's the next Mickey Mantle. Okay, sorry. Never mind. So I think, people buy into their prospects and the young guys in their system, and we do it as Sox fans. I think there are a lot of guys in the Cubs system that they don't want to part with. The fans don't want to see go bye-bye. But you have to make those moves at the deadline if you are not 100% sold on your pitching staff. And he's not one of my favorite players in baseball, to say the least. But when they got Aroldis Chapman, they won the World Series. So, they made smart pickups at that time to bolster a bullpen that needed it. I think they'll be looking to do the same thing again. But I honestly think they'll get pitching, and I think it'll be starting pitching prioritized.
LaKeena is muted.
Come back, LaKeena. You start talking Cubs, and she just checked out.
There you go.
Not chiming in on that too.
And she's a Cub fan. Go figure.
Look, it'll be interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, the whole ranting. I mean, let me just see what names is going to be brought up, to get those top tier guys, the pitchers that you talked about, Julie. So I'm interested to see like what they're going to do here with this, because look, we know Ricky doesn't like to spend, so the Kyle Tucker thing is going to be a little bit of a sore spot. They'll at least try to perhaps maybe try to sign him. I know he was on the boat with PCA and a lot of those guys a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if that means anything, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what do they do? Like who is willing to give up in that farm system, because they got a pretty nice deep farm system now. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that. So, but do you think maybe Mike Tauchman? We know that he played for the Cubs last year, and it wouldn't take much to get him. So you might be seeing him back in the Cubs uniform, Julie. Sorry.
well, and that's okay. I like him on the South Side, but I'm more willing to give him up than Hauser. I just love what the Sox have done, picking up guys like Hauser, Savali, even Tyler Alexander, who had to pitch the day he got here. They've done a nice job finding some of these guys that are sort of diamonds in the rough. And if you're able to flip them, you get a haul like they got for the Crochet trade. You get guys that are going to make an impact. I think with the Cubs, that offense, even though you're talking about getting Tauchman, that offense needs so little tweaking. I mean, on days they're hitting, they're unstoppable. So maybe Dansby Swanson is having a bit of a down year, but he'll have a great 2 weeks. PCA, I'm going to own up to it. He has exceeded my expectations by a mile. I originally, when he first came up, thought his defense was overrated. People would tell me he was fast. I'm like, but fast doesn't equal good defense. You still have to know how to read the ball coming off the bat. You have to, not run into your teammates out there, which happens on both sides of town. But he has blown me away with how good he's been defensively and offensively, and that he's doing things. He's setting records and numbers that baseball has never seen before in terms of just, putting up the home runs and the RBIs and the stolen bases. I have to eat crow on that one, because I honestly didn't think he could be that good this soon. And Cubs fans love him for a good reason. And when he came up this year and he had the blue hair and everything, I'm like, this guy's a goof. But now you see him interviewed and he's, kind of grown up a little. It reminds me of when Patrick Kane was first with the Blackhawks, and you're like, oh, he is so green. He doesn't, couldn't put an interview together. And then as he got a little bit older and a little bit more mature, he was a good soundbite. I think PCA is kind of the same way. When you see him interviewed now before the game or by the national media, he comes off as so savvy, especially for somebody so young. And he's very quick to give credit. He's very humble. So, Cubs fans, you got a good one. And I'm pretty envious that he's not on our side of town. But and you mentioned Kyle Tucker. I think that one's going to be really interesting, because I would have said early on, like, bring him back, re-sign him. But he, I think, hasn't been quite as impressive as people had hoped. And I'm saying that about a guy who's still hitting monster home runs. But I think he might have hurt his value a little bit by underachieving a bit this season. And I'm saying that about a guy who's like a 4-time All-Star. I think the one that's also interesting to follow is PCA's contract, because I keep saying to my husband, why don't they get him in the fold? He's like, well, they made him an offer and it was too low. Well, you got to love a guy who bets on himself, who says, I'm worth more than this. I'm not signing that. So, with each stat he puts up, with each 2-homer game, all you hear is cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And he's forcing the Cubs to pony up. And, I think how Jed handles that, how the front office handles that, is going to be just as significant in terms of any in-season or off-season moves they make.
I was at the Cubs game last month against Seattle, and like you said, PCA, he's become a fan favorite, and rightfully so. We had that guy on the south side. His name was Luis Robert Jr. Now he's been injured, and I know. If I had hair, I'll be pulling it out right now. But that's a whole nother story. Going back to the White Sox, Julie. The All-Star game is next Tuesday in Atlanta. I always hated this rule. I still hate it now. Like Shane Smith got it right. I know his record is not as stellar as some of his other counterparts, but he's been the most consistent in my opinion. You get Miguel Vargas, you can forget about the 211 average. You can go home. You could have made a case for Adrian Houser, but he got here in mid-May. Talk to us about Shane Smith, what the first half he's having.
I love Shane Smith. He's one of my favorite guys on this pitching staff. His last 3-4 outings have been really bad. I wonder if some of that has to do with people have more tape on him now. You know, I mean, he was a Rule 5 guy. You didn't expect a lot from him starting the year, and then he just blew everyone away that first month or so. You know, I still think he's a great pitcher and he's got a great repertoire, but I think the league started to figure him out a little bit, and it's up to Shane and Ethan Katz to counter adjust. It's easier for a team to adjust to a pitcher and what he's throwing than for a pitcher to adjust to a team that's figuring him out. So maybe that's something they work on over the break. Maybe he looks at some tape and figures things out. I'm so excited for him to be named to the All-Star team. I think it's a great honor. I love his family on Twitter. They're such good people, and they're excited to see them in tears at his getting the nod is just great. So I hope people, you know, when people are watching from baseball around the country and they're watching the All-Star guys get announced and their stats on under their name, and people are going, this guy sucks. Well, that's people who haven't watched the White Sox this year, who don't know how good he was in the first, month and a half, 2 months of the season. But I'm glad he got the nod. And there are plenty of guys on this staff I could see in the next few years, hopefully being pitchers in the All-Star game, if not position players. I got to throw a bouquet to my guy, Grant Taylor, who I absolutely love. I know he was starting down in the minors, and then they asked him, would you be a reliever if it got you to the big leagues faster? And he said, yes. And now look at him. He comes up here. He's calm. He's collected. He's just unflappable out there. And he's throwing 102 miles an hour like it's nothing, like he's throwing a wiffle ball. And I know he still wants to start, but I think he could be their lockdown closer for the next decade if they keep him in that role. And it's a real luxury when the manager can go to the bullpen, and I'm not putting him in this category. Don't anyone jump on me. But, when you can go to a Mariano Rivera, when you can go to the Hells Bells, why am I drawing a blank? See, this is what happens when you never.
Trevor Hoffman.
Thank you. Those managers, they're on cruise control. When they go to the bullpen and this guy comes jogging out, I mean, it's done. The other team's like, oh, crap. So I think if the White Sox had a guy that developed into even half of those guys' careers, that's a big key for getting your postseason hopes aligned. Like I said, I love watching him. I pray that he stays healthy, because we all know when you're throwing 102, you can hurt things and have to have shoulder surgeries, which I've been there. It's a long recovery. But I got to give him some love, because I was so excited to see him get called up. I love that he was on board. Whatever you want me to do, as long as I'm in the bigs, I will do it. And maybe he comes around to being a bullpen guy. Maybe he learns to love it. And that's something the Sox can cross off their checklist for the next few years.
Absolutely. And we'll see nice little pieces here to build on for the White Sox. So we'll see. It should be interesting. Now, some breaking news is just this post about 5 minutes ago by both Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport. Ryan Poles has signed a new contract extension, keeping him around for another 5 more years until 2029. So, the rumor was always there that he is going to get extended. So now he and Ben Johnson are in lockstep. They're going to be around for, at the very least, 3 years. At the very least, of course, this contract that he just signed will extend to 29. So, all right. So, look, you guys know how I feel about Mr. Poles. I think he's been kind of up and down. He's made some good moves, but there are some moves that still makes me want to scratch my head. But it is what it is. So, okay. All right. Well, let's see if they can, the Bears can win something in these next 4 or 5 years.
And I mean, I think in general, not necessarily Poles, but even Kevin Warren, I mean, their guys in their administration are kind of under the microscope right now because of all the stadium crap. It still makes me mad that they bought this land in Arlington Heights. If you don't build a stadium there, what are you doing with it? Putting up an amusement park? It just annoys me that they seem to have a plan And then, all of a sudden you've got, Chicago's mayor saying, no, we want to keep you here. They don't want to stay there. They don't want to stay at that stadium. So, I think there's a lot of scrutiny, not just on Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and all that, but on what's going on off the field. And I'm sure you saw the numbers that they're floating out to season ticket holders on, hey, what would you be willing to pay? Mm-hmm. And I mean, some of these numbers they're asking for is what people pay for houses. It's staggering what they're looking for. And they're building on that momentum and that enthusiasm and saying like, hey, you want to be a part of our up and coming team? Pony up. And I thought when Sid was about to introduce the sports radio personality quiz, I thought you were going to reference Kevin Fishbane's survey that is also on Twitter. I urge people to check it out. It's Bear specific. And I mean, the questions are so funny. They're realistic. Some of them are like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate this guy, the job he's been doing or whatever? But some of it's funny too. Kind of like when you said bearish on that one question. I urge people to check it out because, if I'll be curious to see what the results are. And then there's write-in questions like, who's your favorite Bears quarterback of all time or something like that. There's write-ins. And God, I so wanted to put Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, gosh.
You know what? I have a signed Trubisky jersey. I really thought he was going to be so much better. And I mean, he's still bouncing around the league. He's still, getting playing time here and there. But I think it's kind of fun when you see these questions and it forces you to think a little bit about not just the current Bears, but, you as a Bears fan, what matters to you. So shout out to Kevin Fishbane. I think he's the one who wrote it. I know he posted it. But it's fun. If you get a chance to take a look at it, it just, it covers a lot of ground in a few short questions.
Before we wrap up with you here, Julie, stay right there. We wanted to talk to you after the show, but a couple of my thoughts about the Bears. One, will Ryan Poles stay when the Bears move to Arlington Heights? Because I think that's what's going to happen, and probably in the next few years. And number two, me and LaKeena talked about this before. It seems like to me that Kevin Warren, from what he did with the Minnesota Vikings and getting their new stadium a few years ago, he wanted the Bears' new stadium to be in downtown. That's where all these sports franchises are going, and rightfully so. You want a centralized location where your fans can get to and attend your games. But where they had the location for the Bears stadium at the just south of Soldier Field, I thought that was a decent location because there's not too many other places you could build a new stadium within the city of Chicago limits. You had to go out into the suburbs. It seems like to me, from an outside looking in, Kevin Warren won the stadium in the city. The Bears, of course, want that in Arlington Heights. I think the Bears are going to get what they wish for at the end.
And I agree with you. I think if they could have moved just off the lakefront but still been in the city, I think that would have been more appealing to a lot of people. And you have that whole thing with the soccer stadium being built, and can the White Sox still build there, and who would pay for that? I just think it'd be great to have more things to do. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been to stadia around the country in whatever sport, and I love when you're walking around and there's a museum for that team, and there's not just the bars like you see in Wrigleyville, but there's just a different culture. There's all sorts of fun stuff. We do a lot of baseball road trips, and getting to see Camden Yards was always on my bucket list. Loved it. We've been to Kauffman Stadium with the waterfalls. When you see what teams can do in their neighborhood, or even Philadelphia, we were there, and all the teams are like in the same mile square. Like every professional team is, walking distance from each other. Pittsburgh has that. I would love to see a little more cohesion with the different sports teams in town, and also that building a community. Sox fans know, people say, oh, the South Side sucks or whatever, but there's hidden gems there. There's bars you can go to. But I think with the Bears, what they're talking about in Arlington Heights, even though it's not in an urban area, if you're going to build an entertainment complex and have concerts there and have, skating rinks and stuff like that, if you're going to build a whole, a hotel there and things like that, I mean, people aren't going to mind as much that you're not in the city. They're going to say, hey, this is a destination. We don't mind driving to it. I grew up in that area. I actually at one point had a condo 4 blocks from Arlington Park. Wish I'd held on to it because I could have sold my parking spaces. but I know there are a lot of people in the suburbs who can't get downtown, who can't get to Soldier Field that easily, especially, people with kids and whatever. So, for people like me who have suburban ties, it's not the worst thing in the world if they're there. And maybe the traffic is a little bit different than Lakeshore Drive. You're still going to hit traffic off 90 and 53, but there is an advantage to it. And like I said, what are you going to do with that land? Why would you spend all that money to buy it and then start, oh, well, maybe never mind. Maybe we're going to go to the city instead. It's like Brandon Johnson got in their ear and all of a sudden they got squirrely. But I like what you're saying about what Kevin Warren's done in the past. And I think hopefully he's the right guy to move them in a positive direction on a stadium and a culture around it. But I just feel like we've been dragging this out for so long. Like, just make a decision and start building something.
Do we just see if they get anything, at least get the ground running literally by the end of the year? So it's going to be very interesting there. Now, a couple of sports media news real quick before we finish up here. NBA on Prime has officially announced their NBA broadcasting team for their first year streaming NBA games. Your top play-by-play guys will be Iron Eagle, Kevin Harlan, Michael Grady, and a guy that actually spent some time here in Chicago, Eric Collins.
I love EC. He's great.
Yeah. And of course, the game analyst. Your game analyst will be Stan Van Gundy, Brett Barry. Good to see him back doing some broadcast. I thought he did a great job those few years he did it for TNT. Of course, he worked for the Spurs organization, did some coach a little bit. Now he's back to doing color commentary. Also, Del Curry, of course. He's done stuff with the Hornets. He's still going to do that. And of course, your solid reporters, Christina Payne, Allie Clifton, and another Chicago's very own Cassidy Hubbard. So, Sal, I'll start with you. What do you think about this new squad that the NBA Prime has gotten?
I'm not as familiar.
I'll just give you.
No, you can go first, Julie.
Go ahead, Julie.
Go first, Julie.
I'm not as familiar with the sideline people. I'll have to look and see if they're, when you don't recognize the name, but then you see them and you're like, oh, I know that person. But based on the play-by-play guys and commentators you read off, I think there's some great names in there. And a lot of names people will recognize. Like I said, shout out to Eric Collins. I knew him way back in my score days. And I think he does a lot of college stuff I've seen where he's kind of underrated. So I'm curious to see what he'll do on that big stage. But all the guys you're mentioning, the Kevin Harlans of the world are solid. They might not be flashy, they might not be controversial, but they're solid guys. You know what you're going to get when you tune in and watch them. So I think what they've got there is a pretty solid lineup, a bunch of good guys that you can listen to and soak up a lot of their knowledge. And I'm going to just put in a little tiny rant because I know Sid wants to weigh in too. Stephen A. Smith drove me nuts the night of the draft. I literally I wanted to reach through the TV and punch him in the face. I was so annoyed with him. I'm like, why are you yelling at me? Why are you shouting at me? Like, he was so bombastic, and I know that's his style. I know, that's how he's made his money, but I hated every minute of it. And I thought, I don't, people like the controversial guys, the flamboyant guys. I just want somebody who's like a good listen and, maybe says something funny once in a while, but I don't need someone yelling at me. And I could not, I had to keep taking breaks from it because he was like giving me a headache. So to me, maybe I'm a little more milquetoast when it comes to my play-by-play and color commentator guys. But if it's a solid broadcast, like Jason Benetti, not to bring up a sore point, Jason Benetti is so good at what he does because he can be straightforward. He can be like, here's the action, but then he'll give you like some pop culture drops, or he'll throw in some like pun or something. We all loved Sox math, even though some of us absolutely sucked at it. That would be me. But I mean, I think broadcasts like that are what I gravitate toward. We're talking about Ozzy and how much flavor he adds in the post game, but that's your post game, guys. During a broadcast, you kind of want it to be sort of like a comfortable listen. And I think a lot of the names LaKeena mentioned are that person.
Just to wrap up real quick, what else was I going to say? Amazon Prime and of course NBA on NBC is returning in the fall. With those, we talked about this before, LaKeena. With both those networks adding up their rosters, I think it's better than ESPN's. I know ESPN will get inside the NBA, joining them come up in the fall, but outside of them, ESPN's got to get their stuff together. Because I'm like with you, Julie. Stephen A. It's kind of like my personal relationship with Dan Bursing as a listener. It's like I respect you for what you've done, but you ran your course. It's like, and with him and Kendrick Perkins going at it during the NBA Finals during the halftime, you really didn't get anything from a halftime show. It was like both of them yelling back and forth like you had a barbecue. Like, I don't need first take on my halftime show. No, keep first take at first take, as I'll call it, first fake. Keep that on first take. I don't need that crap on my broadcast. No.
Amen. And as long as we're mentioning ESPN's shortcomings, the Bobby Jenks thing, I know you guys saw it, where they said
yeah, we talked about it.
Bad
tweet, bad.
F you, ESPN. Like, that pissed me off. I'm so glad Sox Twitter jumped all over ESPN for that. I mean, whether it's AI generated or not, which some people speculated, like, proofread that stuff. Get it right.
Some of the former players jumped on it too.
Yes. And I loved that. Guys like Jermaine Dye and AJ Brzezinski. But to me, that was so shameful. And the fact that they always forget about the White Sox winning the World Series, it makes you wonder, like, what's going on over there? Like, are you Cubs fans? Are you Twins? Like, why? Why don't you respect our team that won a World Series, in our lifetime? It just made me so mad, and it was so disrespectful. And, if Bobby Jenks could, he would throw a fastball right down here from heaven and hit somebody in the head for that.
Oh my gosh. Oh Lord.
Like that today, did you?
On that note.
No. On that note. Anything else, guys, before we disperse?
Just go White Sox this weekend. Enjoy this celebration of the championship team. I hope everybody gets to view a lot of the happenings on some sort of TV broadcast, because it's going to be great to see these guys. They've got such a huge turnout. I mean, I think from what I saw, it's pretty much like Herm Schneider is going to be there. I would go out and cheer for Hermie, running out there with his scissors dangling from his pocket. I just love that they've got so many people committed, so many people on board. And, Sox fans should enjoy this and should hope that this inspires some of the young players, which they've said in the last few days, that this is what they want to emulate. So it's going to be a great, fun weekend for Sox fans. And I would love it if they took the series from the Guardians, because they suck too. They're up there with the Twins for me. We hate everybody in our division, don't we?
Just about. All right, LaKeena, take us home.
All right, on that note, you can find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Miss Julie Swieca Gannon, where can people follow you on the X machine?
They can find me at Julie Swieca, all one word. And make sure you look there, because mine has been hacked in the last few years. So at Julie Swieca is the current one. And I post a lot during Sox games. I post a lot of sports stuff. So hop on. I would love it if people followed, and I love engaging with people on there. So it's very respectful, and most of the time, and I love meeting Sox fans that I've gotten to know through Twitter. So, as you know,
yes,
of course, we also want to thank KXRP's Christine Manika for joining us again. That was fun with her that first half of the previous hour. So want to thank her for joining us. Of course, you can catch Second Seed Sports and all the other great content for Sports Chicago anytime on the Sports Chicago Facebook and YouTube channel. So it's all right there for you. Our show, What's Up, Cuz, the Smoke Fellas, Sean Sierra Sports, and all the other great content. Catch it anytime, anywhere on the Sports Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
All right, so enjoy, the Wimbledon, the men's and women's final. We'll see if the American Amanda Amisinov, Mamina Snoda can pull off the upset of Ida Swartek. And of course, once again on the men's side, you get Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz for the men's side. We'll see if Alcaraz can get 3 in a row. For that, I'm sure Sinner will love to get that first Wimbledon. I think that's the only other Grand Slam he has on when he got a couple of. He's currently, he has the U.S. Open, but he also has a couple Aussie Opens too. So, and also WNBA, of course, we'll see if Angel Reese can still keep things going there for the Sky. And all the other great sports that are out there too, as we're getting ready, getting a kind of like, geared up for football season coming up on both the college and the pro side. So for Sid and Julie, I'm LaKeena. This is Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Stay cool out there, folks, and we'll see you guys next week.
Go Sox. Holla!